And salutations, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural, the first episode of Filthy Sports here on the Filthy Sports podcast YouTube channel. I'm, of course, John Campy, and this is the first go for us, doing a sports show, something I've wanted to do for a long time. I'm fortunate that I'm not alone in here. I got Jonathan Voico back here.
Hey, guys. How are you? Good afternoon.
We got Ryan Myers in here.
What's going on, sports fans?
And you guys are here joining us for our very, very first episode. I'm all excited. My goal for our first episode was for us to hit 50 live viewers, and we're already at 103. Woo! We just started the stream at 103. So listen, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about a bunch of things sports related here. We got a number of topics we're going to talk about. And then if we got any time at the end, we're going to take some questions from you guys in the live chat. So let's not waste any time and dive right into it. We're going to start off with this. Week 5 of the NFL has happened. And while there are some pretty good stories this year, Washington, who saw them starting 4-1, right? Minnesota, 5-0. What's going on over there? But through 5 weeks, we're also able to kind of piece together here, for those of you who are fans, some really big tales of woe and sadness. Because there are a number of good stories, yes, but there's also a couple of really big disappointments this year. And I thought we would start things off here on a high note by talking about the biggest disappointments in the NFL so far through week 4. Now, I want to get a couple teams out of the way here before I get to my one team that I think is the biggest disappointment so far in this going through week 5, 2024 season. I want to get some other teams out of the way here. Obviously, I want to talk about the New England Patriots. All right. Yeah, they're horrible. They're 1-4, but they're not my most disappointing team of the year so far, because did anybody expect anything out of the Patriots? You've basically got a full team turnaround. You got the new coach in there. It's going to take them a little while. Nobody expected much this year. So that is why I'm not going to mention the New England Patriots right now, at least anyway. Also, the San Francisco 49ers. What are they now? 2-3?
Yep.
2-3 after blowing one. Yep. Another one.
Another 10-point blowout in the end, fourth quarter. So
and look, obviously, this is a team that you got to think about when talking about the most disappointing results so far, because this very high on Super Bowl contender list for a lot of people coming into the season, right? Yeah. So why don't I have them as my most disappointing team? Simple. Injuries. They literally had a game or two where they were without Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuels, George Kittle. I don't think Ayuk even missed a little bit of time.
Ayuk had a slow start because he was out because of the contract.
That's right. So he had a bit of a slow start, right? Yeah. So they literally have had multiple games where they were without multiple of those guys, or at least one of them. Of course, Christian McCaffrey isn't even in the lineup yet. We'll talk about McCaffrey a little bit later on as well. Well, then our LA Rams. We live in the LA area. You were at yesterday's game.
Yes, it should have just been Los Angeles Lambeau Field, because it was 80% Packer fans, which most Rams home games are.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah, any legacy team, it's always just the other team's fans. So
they lost again.
They lost, yeah, it was close till the second half.
Now, so they're 1-4, but again, you're talking about injuries, right? The two best players first of all, Donaldson's not there anymore. No, Sam Donaldson. One of the best football players of all time, not there. Yep. That's fine. But even this year's roster, Puka Nakua's out.
Yep.
Cooper Kupp is out. Those are easily your two best players. Mm-hmm. They're out. Matt Stafford's getting a little long in the tooth. Yeah. He's starting to show it a bit too.
And I think they have some questionable play calling. Like yesterday in the first quarter,
of course,
they could have kicked a field goal early in the game and got some points on the board, and they just got stopped on fourth down, which was
kind of early in the game to do
that. It was in the first 5 minutes of the game. So I don't know why they did that. I know he's trying to be aggressive, but I think between the injuries, Stafford, they have some picks. I got to make some decisions though, because they're 1-4. Stafford's getting older. They're going to need a quarterback eventually.
I'll tell you right now, this season's a write-off.
I think so, yeah.
They've got to start thinking about the future, but they're not my most disappointing team of the year so far. Okay. Again, injuries, and I don't think a lot of people were expecting a lot from them anyway. I'm going to mention another team that might surprise you. Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Now, you might say, John, they've been without, their main guy, Tua, right? But is anybody else shocked about just how bad this team is, even without Tua? I mean, they got a win yesterday against a bottom dweller. I mean, yay, well done.
Yeah.
But I mean, like without Tua Tagovailoa, they've looked completely hapless. They've looked completely lost. It looks like junior A going on out there. So, but they are not my most disappointing team of the year so far. I will tell you my most disappointing team of the year so far.
Do they wear orange?
They wear orange
figured.
with some little black stripes.
Yeah.
And it's good Ray has the day off today because he would be weeping over in the corner. Cincinnati Bengals are easily and by far the most disappointing team. And I'll tell you why. It's for a couple of reasons. Number one, we talked about the San Francisco 49ers. The expectations, I don't think there's anybody who's saying that the Cincinnati Bengals were the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year, but they were in a lot of people's top 5, top 6. You got Joe Burrow coming back, all this kind of stuff. And to Joe Burrow's credit, I mean, they've kind of been lighting it up. But take a look at this record here. They lose to the New England Patriots, which arguably
should count as 2 losses, honestly.
Yeah, we should count as 2. You're right. That should go down in the records as 2. They literally lose to the worst team in the league. Then they lose a squeaker to the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what? They always played the Chiefs tough. That's great, but close doesn't count. It's still a loss. Then they lose to the Washington Commanders, which in hindsight now isn't a horrible loss. There are 4-1, but still, that's another loss. Then they beat the Carolina Panthers, ladies and gentlemen. Well done. They beat the Carolina Panthers. So they got a win there. And then they just lost in a heartbreaker to the Baltimore Ravens. They lost that one 41-38. I want you to look at these scores again. 16-10, 26-25, 38-33, 34-24, 41-38. They've never been known, at least not in recent years, as a defensive juggernaut. They are giving up an average of 31 points per game. And that includes taking into consideration that first game against New England where they only gave up 16. Burrow just threw for almost 400 yards, 392 to be specific, almost 400 yards, 5 touchdowns to just 1 pick, and they still lose. So, I mean, they still have the problem they've always had, like ever since Burrow came. Like their offensive line is better now than, say, in his first 2 seasons. They're still not a top tier offensive line, but clearly they're scoring points because look in those, take out the New England game, right? They scored 25, 33, 24, and 38, and they're 1-4. 25, 33, 24, and 38, and they're 1-4. Offense clearly ain't the problem.
It's not. It's their defense. Their secondary, a lot of their main secondary guys got injured. One blew out his ACL before the season even started, so they can't stop anybody. So basically, they can put up as many points as they want. The other team could just put up more because they can't get any stops.
And they're still suffering from some key badly timed turnovers as well.
Yeah, and like you're saying, like besides the Carolina game, everything was within 7 points.
Yeah.
So they're really hanging in there and coming back. It's just they can't get the stops they need, and it's just and like you said, those teams, none of them are like the best of the best. So
you did have Kansas in there. Yeah, give them the
true.
Chiefs.
So, but if you can't take care of business with the Patriots and the Panthers, you don't have hope for the playoffs if you can't beat these teams.
What are some other teams that you might I did or didn't list that
a lot of the ones
really
you said were the ones I had? Niners especially because they're supposed to pretty much run away with the division. All the rest of the NFC West teams are not that good. The Rams, I had hope for them, but injuries kind of killed them. But yeah, Dolphins, same thing you're saying with the injuries. The Bengals. Other than that, I kind of had higher hopes for the Packers with Jordan Love, but I think since he kind of got injured,
he's been injured.
So I thought, but
they'll be, the
look
Packers
good,
will be fine.
Yeah,
I think the Packers will be fine. And with I've also got to remind myself of this with the 49ers. Last year, I think they had a streak there. Debo was out for a bit.
Yeah.
Remember that? Mm-hmm. And they went on a losing streak before the end of the season, but ultimately they're fine. I think once the 49ers are completely healthy and they start to groove again, I think they'll be just fine. I don't know that they should be a favorite to win the Super Bowl anymore. A lot will have to do with whether McCaffrey comes back, but we'll see. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. Talking about the disappointments, the teams. Maybe it's your team that is one of the big disappointments. Who do you think is the biggest disappointment through week 5 in this NFL season? Jump on down to the comments and let us know what you guys think. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this. Going from one extreme to the other, we just talked about the most disappointing teams in the league this year. Well, let's kind of flip the script on that and now talk about the top of the top, the peak. Through week 5, and granted, there's a Monday night game tonight where this could change, but as of right now, there's only 2 undefeated teams in the NFL left, the Minnesota Vikings and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's it. Now, that could change by the end of the night. Kansas got a tough game coming up tonight. They're playing like an hour and a half or something like that.
Close, yep.
So maybe by the time you watch this video, they won't be undefeated anymore, but we'll see. So I had one of our viewers write to me because, we do our movie show. And for those of you who are just coming across the sports show, we also do a movie show called The John Campea Show. Go and find that YouTube channel. But one of my viewers on that, in talking about knowing that we had our first Filthy Sports coming up today, wrote in and asked me an interesting question. They said, who's the best undefeated team left? And there's only 2, Minnesota and Kansas City. So take a look at this. So here's the Minnesota Viking record right now. So they beat the New York Giants. They beat the 49ers. I mean, beating the Giants, you don't win any prizes for that. Yeah, they beat the 49ers, which at that time was considered a really good win. They beat the Houston Texans, who are legit,
good,
and
yeah.
they spanked them. I mean, they spanked them good. Then they had a nice win over the Packers, and they, of course, just beat Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. And they have a couple of very, very convincing wins on here, but here's the key thing. Even when you look at that 31-29 score with the Packers, they look like they were dominating the game to me, right? They're out there. They're swinging the ball around. I don't know where the hell this version of Sam Darnold came from.
Yeah.
Because there are some other teams, including the Jets, wondering where the hell was this guy? But he looks good. Of course, he's got, Jeff out
Jefferson,
there.
yeah.
I mean, so that helps a lot. You also got a brilliant offensive coordinator. Things are looking good in there. But they just look, here's the thing. And I'm spoiler alert, I'm saying Minnesota's the best undefeated team right now. And here's why. Because when they're out on the field right now, when I'm watching their games, it always looks like the other team, so far, every game I've watched, it looks like the other team is trying to survive. It looks like the other team is trying, their body language is always that. It always looks like this is Minnesota's game and you're there to participate. And that's just kind of what, even in their closer games, it feels like that. Now, on the flip side of that, you look over at the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. A win against Baltimore, which is a good win, right? But close, very close. The Cincinnati Bengals game, some people say maybe some officiating and that game goes the other way.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so too.
Then the Atlanta Falcons is actually not a bad win, but again, very close within 5. And the Chargers, which they only got by with 7 points. But here's, again, it's more the eye test for me. Like the scores are the scores. A win's a win. You are what your record says you are, as the saying goes. But when I watch the Vikings, again, I see that's the boss, right? That's the final boss. That's the big man in the neighborhood. When I watch the Chiefs, they just do not feel dominant to me. And listen, nobody wants to say it out loud. Patrick Mahomes has not looked Patrick Mahomes-ish this year yet. Kelsey is not firing on all cylinders. And you could make an argument that, hey, when they need Kelsey to step up, he does it. There's an argument to make. He's getting older. His brother just retired. He's getting older. Maybe he's trying to conserve himself a bit. All that is legit and true. But it's just for me, Ryan, when I look again at Minnesota, I see a dominant team. When I see Kansas, I see a team that's squeaking out some good wins, but not down. Now, I say that. I felt the same way about the Chiefs last year in the first half of the season. Like they just never convinced me that they looked dominant or that they could steamroll anybody, but they just started to pick up steam. So I'm not saying take Kansas City Chiefs off your Super Bowl pick. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying right now, if I had to pick who's the best team in the league right now, I'm going to say the Vikings. I don't know. How do you see it?
I'm going to go the opposite. I'm
Really?
going to say the Chiefs. Well, first of all, I will say yes. I think Kelsey's getting up there in age. He also, in playoffs, he's putting up such crazy numbers or using him so much. I think that's probably catching up to him. I do know the Chiefs, they basically had to get Kareem Hunt to be the running back because they don't have any running backs.
Right.
So they needed that. Hollywood Brown got hurt, so the receiver course, and Rice is out too. So that's kind of
Yeah, and we're going to have to see how long he's going to be out for.
But I mean, if they had all those guys and you told me the Vikings are playing the Chiefs, I'm picking the Chiefs to win. because they know how to pull out close games. They have the experience. Darnold is putting up great numbers. He's playing well, but it's still Darnold. So we have to see what happens.
I feel like you should make a T-shirt that says that.
But
it's
I'm
still
not going
Darnold.
I'm not going to put it down because he is putting up good numbers and he's getting wins. So I don't want to talk trash, but it's Patrick Mahomes has won multiple Super Bowls and MVPs versus
Yeah, and
Darnold.
probably will win more.
But yeah, they're both good. I just would probably pick the Chiefs just because they know how to win. And as the season progresses, those guys are going to come back or they'll get people to fill in those spots. And I think they'll take care of business.
I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot to. Look, when the Chiefs lost Tyreek, right? A lot of people said, oh, well, now they're just going to be a really good team, but not an elite team. They were continued to be an elite team and won Super Bowl, won rings, right? But how big of a deal is it that Rice is out? Because he's kind of become a very big centerpiece of that offense. How important is it, do you think, to the Chiefs that he comes back sooner rather than later?
Well, basically all through last year's playoffs, he was the main receiver. So, and Kelsey obviously did his thing, but yeah, they need someone to pick up because Kelsey can't do everything and they don't really have a running game. So they need someone else to take off the pressure. So I think Hollywood Brown's out for the season and Rice, they thought he might be done for the season, but now they're saying he might come back. So they need someone to pick up the slack if he's not going to come back. So I don't think they have anything to pick up Devontae Adams, but that would be a good team for him to go to if they need a receiver.
Oh,
but
Devontae would go to Kansas
I don't know
City.
if they have anything to and also I don't know if he's like the player that they would want, but he would fill in a gap. They don't have a main receiver. He's super good.
You know what? We've already spent too much time on this topic, but you just brought up the Devontae thing because
Taco Bell's
obviously, you want to go Taco Bell's?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Jets is a place he's looking at because he loves playing with
Rodgers.
Aaron. So
Aaron.
then a lot of people are saying Dallas, but I don't know how much they have left to mortgage, and I don't think it'd make a big difference. Kansas would be interesting, and I think one of the reasons Kansas would be interesting is because, number one, you can say to Devontae, listen, true legit, like, you can go to the Jets, you ain't winning nothing.
Yeah,
You can go to Dallas, sorry, Cowboy fans, you ain't winning nothing. You go to the Chiefs, there's a very good chance you get a ring. I mean, there's a very good chance. And you know what? For Kansas, they might think, listen, we've got a couple of rings. We think we can rebuild, but we want to win right now too. So they might be willing to part with some stuff for them.
I mean, they're on the same division as the Raiders, so I don't know if the Raiders would poo on that
no.
because of it.
The Raiders would pull the
but the
trigger
Raiders
on that.
also stink
You're
and
right.
need picks and stuff, so it just depends. I mean, they probably want to trade him out of their division, but
no, you know what? You
so.
just put the whole kibosh on that whole theory because you're right. There's no way they're giving him to the Chiefs. Anyway, guys, question is for you. As of this recording, there are 2 undefeated teams in the NFL, Minnesota and Kansas City. Who do you think is the more dominant team right now? Jump on down to the comments and let us know what you guys think. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? So, of course, the big story last year was Aaron Rodgers joining the New York Jets and how that was going to change everything. Something I did not personally understand because Aaron Rodgers in his last year in Green Bay kind of stunk the place out. They didn't make the playoffs. The very first year with Jordan Love, they make the playoffs. I'm not trying to crap on the legacy of Aaron Rodgers. I'm just saying. I never understood this whole idea. And then he goes down injured. Totally sucks for him and for the Jets fans. Everybody, he goes down first quarter of the first game. But then coming now, Aaron Rodgers is a year's worth of rust, a year older, and a lot of people were picking them to be favorites in the AFC, favorites to maybe make a Super Bowl. There were a bunch of people singing that song, and I never understood it. Like, I'm like, why? This isn't 2012. I mean, why all this? Well, you got to expect and give a little bit of leeway to Aaron Rodgers because rust, get to know the team, all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to say it out loud. It's time to accept reality. As of right now, I'm not talking about the past. I'm not talking about his legacy. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm saying right now, at best, Aaron Rodgers is an average NFL quarterback. At best. I mean, take a look at this. Aaron Rodgers now through 5 weeks, has only had one game where he's completed over 62% of his passes. One game. And that was against the Patriots. So congratulations. you threw for, 77% against Patriots. It's still good, right? He hasn't had a single 300-yard game yet. And that's not the measure of whether you're doing well or not. But for him, he's only had one game where he's thrown over 250 yards. And then when you watched him against Minnesota, who granted has a tough defense, but when you look at those picks that he was throwing, that wasn't, at least two of them, they were just straight up brutal decisions, straight up brutal throws. And he's throwing like 1,000 times a game right now.
Yeah.
They've got one of the better backs in the NFL. So, I mean, there's also a coaching question here as well. Like, you got one of the best backs in the NFL. You're just throwing it 1,000 times a game and all that kind of stuff. But he's not completing a high percentage of them, at least when he's not playing the Patriots. He's making some horrible decisions. I mean, that egg they laid last week against the Broncos,
yeah,
who by the way, are shock and surprise. They're 3-2 now.
Yeah.
But they couldn't put up more than 9 points. Granted, there was some weather and all that kind of stuff, but they could put up more than 9 points. And it just seemed like every moment that was big. Look, am I saying that Aaron Rodgers is a bad quarterback? No. But if you think he's anything more than a middle of the pack NFL quarterback right now, I don't know what to tell you, because he is definitely not top 5. I don't think he's top 10. I think if he's lucky, he's somewhere in the middle of the pack of NFL starting quarterbacks. And I think the Jets, other than Cleveland with Deshaun, I think this will go down as one of the worst trades. I literally don't think the Jets are going to get any payoff from this. And obviously the Deshaun Watson deal was way worse for, we're going to talk tomorrow about Deshaun Watson and what's going on in Cleveland. But so Ryan, you're hearing me say it's time to face the facts. As of right now, Aaron Rodgers is at best an average NFL quarterback. Am I right or am I wrong?
I would say the keyword would be right now, I think he's an average quarterback. Basically, what you're saying, the interceptions, the decision-making, it is a new team to him, basically, like you said. He was out the whole first year. The offensive coordinator, though, is his friend. And so the play calling should be exactly what he wants, because that's part of the deal for him coming there.
Untalented friend, by the way.
Well, yeah, bad head coach. But
because remember Sean said in Denver about him? It's like the guy who was the coach here was an idiot.
Yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers got all puffy defending. That's my guy. Well, guess what? Your guy's not very good.
Yeah. The Jets coach, I mean, that one game, the first game where he went to hug Rodgers and he did like a weird.
Yeah, when Saleh went for the coach. That was weird interesting language.
Too. The picks are one thing. I looked it up. Basically, Aaron Rodgers' average interceptions per whole year is 8, and he already has half that. So that's bad. I know 3 of them were in the Minnesota game, but I think he's still trying to get used to the receivers.
Yeah.
But they have good weapons, like you said. The running back, the receivers are good. I think he's trying to do throws he used to do, and maybe he can't do them right now still. I think he needs to still, grow into it, learn these players. I'm not going to say he's washed yet, because there's still some throws he throws on the sidelines and during the game where I'm like, that's a laser. It's exactly where it needs to go. But I do think overall, right now, I would say he probably is a run-of-the-mill, I'll say run-of-the-mill, average to above average quarterback, but he's not an elite quarterback right now.
Look, with all the crap I seem to be talking about Aaron right now, let me be clear, though. Let's say I'm a Bills fan and I'm winning by 5 and there's a minute 20 on the clock.
Yeah.
Do I want to see Aaron Rodgers on the other side of the field marching down the field against me? No, hell no, I do not. I mean, so like I'm sitting here saying he's a middle of the road, but if it came down to the last minute and like a division championship game or something like that, I do not want to look across the field and see Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, he has the benefit of a good defense. They have a top 5
he
defense.
Does, yeah.
So all he needs to do is put up points, and the defense will keep the other guys hopefully under a high score. So, just don't do turnovers.
But putting up points is the thing.
Yeah.
Now, how much changes if, because we alluded to this a little bit earlier. Of course, Devontae Adams is a name that's out there right now. There's no denying there's magic between Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Like they have a shorthand. Aaron Rodgers always just seemed to know which way he was going to go, even when it was a freelanced play. Like when the play had broken down and he's out there ad-libbing it, Rodgers just always seemed to know where he was going to go. And Devontae always just seemed to know where Rodgers would be looking. Does it change much for the Jets, let's say, argument's sake, that he does end up going to New York?
I mean, it's another weapon. I mean, they have Wilson and stuff, so they have receivers. I don't know if that's the case, although Wilson's not on the same page, it seems like, with Aaron Rodgers.
Clearly not yet.
So if they can't get on the same page, no matter how good he is, they're going to have a problem. So if Devontae can come in and basically not miss a beat and knows the plays because the same play caller from back in Green Bay, then sure. I don't know what the hell Jets have left to trade or do. They've given away everything.
They've mortgaged
everything. I don't know, unless Raiders are just like, well, we don't want to send him to, division team. We'll send him to the Jets for whatever 5th round pick, but he gets paid a lot too. So I think it definitely would help, but I don't know if that's their issue, honestly.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about my statement that it's time to accept the fact that as of right now, Aaron Rodgers is a middle of the pack, average NFL quarterback? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Whatever you guys think, jump into the comments and leave your thoughts there. All right. Let's move on to this, shall we? In another stunner, San Francisco 49ers lost yesterday to the Cardinals. It now drops the San Francisco 49ers, which we were talking about a little bit earlier, to 2-3 on the season, which I think, listen, if you had gone to a Las Vegas sports book and before the season started and put down money on them starting 2-3, you would have won a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody saw that coming. Now, granted, a lot of injuries. We already talked about it. Debo was out. Kittle was out. McCaffrey continues to be out. All that kind of stuff. Still believe they can turn it around. But Christian McCaffrey, they're starting to speak optimistically. They're now saying maybe a week 7 return, or after they have their bye week coming up, maybe he comes back in and all kind of stuff. I just wanted to take a second, because this is kind of my grinding an axe thing. I still am completely beside myself that Christian McCaffrey was not named the NFL MVP last year. I think, like, all due respect to the Josh Adams and Lamar Jacksons and Patrick Mahomes and all the great players, to me, there is no single multifaceted, multi-tool player in the NFL like Christian McCaffrey. Like, he literally changes the entire dynamic of a game. He can be your top 1 or 2 receivers in the game, and he can lead the league in rushing and lead the lead in touchdowns and do all this kind of stuff. And I think when you're looking at, I start with, like, yeah, Debo had injuries, Kittle's had injuries, Ayuk is coming back from all that kind of stuff. They're having some questions on defense right now, even though they are very fundamentally a good defensive team, but they're a little bit shaky. If Christian McCaffrey doesn't come back, I'll say this. You can have Debo back to 100%. You can have Kittle, who I love Kittle, by the way. You can have Kittle back to 100%. You can have all of that. If Christian McCaffrey does not come back, this team is done. Now, you can say their running game has still been pretty effective. Absolutely it has. What's the kid's name who ran for over 100 yards the first game?
Jordan Mason.
Yeah, like ran over 100 yards first game, right? Mm-hmm. They absolutely have a running game even without McCaffrey. But that's not the point. When McCaffrey is on the field, he can literally do anything. He's got Gronkowski kind of blocking ability, even for a little guy. He can run the best routes. You can never take your eyes off him. So I'm going to say this, and how can the San Francisco 49ers win without McCaffrey? I'm going to say no. Like, they'll win some games, obviously. Even if he stays out, they're going to win some games. He's just got too much talent. But if he does not come back, that whole thing I was saying earlier, the 49ers will be fine. They'll turn things around. No, that's off the table, because I just think he's that important to their team. And I remember when they traded for him from the Panthers, I remember getting on social media at the time and saying, this is just unfair.
Wait,
like, they literally got the human cheat code.
I was so mad. I'm like, can we get a running back that's worth anything? And then they get the best one. I'm like, okay, great. Yeah.
He's just a living cheat code.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, even if he comes back, how much of the injury is going to hurt him? How is he going to be able to be the McCaffrey we've known? Running backs historically have a short shelf life in the NFL. Yeah. But anyway, so my statement here is, I don't think they can win big. I don't think they can make any kind of a playoff run. I don't think they can do it without him. Can they or can't they?
I think he elevates them to a whole nother level. I think right now you're seeing, I think you called it out. Basically, their rushing average is about the same as him, but the Jordan Mason's average, like receiving, is like 15 yards a game when McCaffrey's was close to 40. So that's a big difference for first downs and drives to the end zone.
Because you know what else it is? When McCaffrey's back there, all of a sudden the backs have to account for the running back too. The guys in the backfield, they've got to account for Christian McCaffrey, which takes more pressure off of Debo. It takes some of the defensive pressure off of Kittle and so on and so forth, because it's a totally different thing.
So offensively, I think he elevates them to another level, but right now, I think they're fine. I think their issue is defense. They've given up
Certainly
huge leads
them,
in the fourth, and unless McCaffrey's going to come out and take some defensive snaps, I don't know what's going to happen if they can't keep people from giving up leads. So, but I think the lucky thing for them is the NFC West is not great right now. So these injuries, if they can get them out of the way and they can come back, I think they have a chance to make it. Obviously, the playoffs.
The NFC West right now, the number one team right now is the Seattle Seahawks, who don't look great at 3-2.
Which beginning of the season was not going to be anyone's number one pick.
So they're literally one game out of first place.
The only thing I'll say is McCaffrey last year was very healthy. Before that in Carolina, he has injury problems. So like you're saying, running backs have a shelf life. They need to utilize him while they can before he really breaks down. If, double leg Achilles tendonitis, both legs, that's not a good thing to have as a running back.
Yeah, so we'll see what kind of, what version of Christian McCaffrey we're going to get when he comes back. All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think? Can the San Francisco 49ers have some prolonged success this season without McCaffrey, or do they need him in that lineup? Whatever you guys think, jump into the comments and let us know your thoughts. All right, let's change gears here for a second. Let's jump over to some UFC. You guys know I'm a huge UFC guy. So UFC 307 was this weekend. It was a great card. It really was. It was a really fun, exciting, some really close fights card. But there's just a couple of things I want to touch on quickly. I mainly want to talk about Alex Pereira, but we'll get to versus Roundtree. We'll get to that in a second. I just want to mention a couple quick things. Kayla Harrison. That's a bad woman, man. Like I actually feel convinced if Amanda Nunes came out of retirement, I think Kayla beats the living crap out of her. I've been watching her ever since she was fighting in the PFL. And for those little background, she's got 2 Olympic gold medals in judo. So like she is like, and she looks like
she's built like that.
She's built like Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
huge. She's just massive and powerful and strong and whatever. And she went in there against the number 2 ranked opponent. And other than getting a cut, really not much trouble. The only weakness I see in her game is obviously she can really utilize her throws and her trips when she's in the clinch. Her shot is weak. She needs maybe go get George St. Pierre on the phone or something like that and learn proper single leg takedown, shooting in for something like that, whatever. That's the only weakness to her game right now. She's going to be a problem. And she's easily, look, all due respect to the Venezuelan Vixen, but she has no chance against Harrison. So she's going to be wearing a belt here pretty soon. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention just quickly was the Batista versus Jose Aldo fight. It was a close fight. It ended up being a split decision win for Batista, and there's no way in hell that should have been the case. The main argument that Joe Rogan and the commentators and others will have, and it's legitimate, is that for those of you who saw the fight, Batista basically just pinned Jose Aldo against the cage for most of the fight. Now, you can make the argument, and this is the argument they made, is that is him controlling the fight. That he's imposing his will on Jose Aldo, that we're going to be against this cage. And ring control, octagon control, is one of the things that the judges look for. Granted, I agree with that. Nothing wrong with that. But here's the thing that I think they totally miss. And you mentioned it. We were watching these fights. You mentioned this. Here's a stat for you. Batista was 0 for 10 in takedown attempts. 0 for 10. My argument is that when Batista's putting Aldo against the cage, he is engaging, he is forcing a competition. I'm going to try to take you down, and you're going to try to stop me. Each time he went in there, he initiated a contest. 10 times those contests were initiated, according to the official UFC stats. 10 times. He started a contest with Aldo saying, I'm going to try to take you down, and you're going to try to stop me. Jose Aldo was 10-0 in those. Yeah. Not once was he able to successfully do a takedown. He beat him 10 times in those little mini side quests, in those little side contests. Jose Aldo, 10-0. I agree, octagon control is a part. But you said when we were watching the fight, and it was a brilliant observation, you said stuffing another guy's takedown is accomplishing something, and it is not given any credit for that. Again, you initiated 10 contests and you lost. You were 0 for 10. I'm sorry, it was a close fight, but Jose Aldo should have been given that victory. Anyway, your observations,
especially 10 out of, you're saying 10 out of 10 times. It's not like he stopped one and he got taken down a bunch of times. Like, this guy's offense was basically put him on the cage and do shoulder strikes. That's all he was doing.
Yeah.
And I know the referee split them up
a couple of times. Yeah.
To me, it seems like, it would never happen, but to me, if someone stops that many takedowns and you're on the fence, the referee needs to step in more frequently.
Yeah.
Like, nothing is happening. You're not doing any damage. You're putting him on the cage. Yes, you should be getting out of this, but at the same time, the reason they're doing it is because he doesn't want to get hit in the face.
Yeah.
So that's his defense is, I'm going to pin you against the fence, and we're just going to sit here, and I'm going to try to get some points. So I know this is a huge argument with wrestling fighters versus striking fighters and stuff, but I feel like if your defense is so good that someone that is known for takedowns can't take you down, that should count for something. Like,
I completely,
what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm stopping what he's doing. What else am I supposed to do? Like,
I'm not saying it should count as much as a massive head kick or anything like that, but again, 10 times this little contest was initiated by Batista, and Aldo was 10-0 in those. And in a really close fight, that should have been the difference. And I really think Aldo should have been given the win in that. Anyway, guys, let's go on to the main event, though. And there were some great fights as well. But my God, can we talk about Alex? Everybody pronounces his name different. Roundtree pronounces it Pereira. Yeah. That's how I've always said it. Yeah. The guys on the UFC broadcast say Pereira or something like that. I always say Pereira. Forgive me if you think I'm mispronouncing it, but
he's a Terminator.
He is a fucking Terminator.
He's a killer. Like,
he's a straight up killer. Like, when he came into the UFC, everybody thought, oh, the only reason he's getting a shot is because years ago in kickboxing, he beat Izzy. He beat Israel Adesanya, the style bender. Oh, he beat him a couple of times. A couple of times in kickboxing. That's the only reason they're giving him a shot. And I admit, I wrote him off too. I did. I just, this guy's going to come into the UFC. He's probably going to look good, but get beat. He has done nothing but dominate. He beat Izzy for a third time, and before eventually finally losing one to him. But this guy, I was telling you this as we were watching the fight. You see the footwork of a lot of other fighters. Alex doesn't like move his feet as much. He shuffles his feet, always maintains his base. And every second he's in the octagon, he looks like he is, like other people say this, I mean it with him. He looks like he is stalking prey.
I don't think he blinks. He's just like looking constantly.
Never blinks.
I'm like, holy God.
Like, not once did he blink. Even in the stare down, never once did he blink. But the dude, honestly, he looks at his opponent and thinks, that's my prey. Yeah. And the whole time he's taunting him. Now listen, full credit to Roundtree, who is a damn boss, because he won by a little bit, but he won the first 2 rounds. But even in those rounds, Pereira was basically feeling him out, landing body shots and landing those vicious leg kicks. Yep. And listen, true story, like, people are wondering, well, Roundtree's getting gassed. And listen, there was one Los Angeles Comic-Con that I went to just a couple of years ago, and I had janked up my knee in the gym. And so my knee was hurting. And just when you've got pain in your leg, whether it's your knee or other parts of your leg, you'd be surprised how quickly your gas tank zips, because just walking from the parking garage into the convention center and like one lap of the convention center, I was feeling winded.
Yeah.
Like, so he was like investing in the legs, investing in the body. And so it wasn't like bad conditioning while Roundtree was looking at his gassing. He was getting hit. And then the third round came.
Yeah.
And it's like somebody rang the dinner bell. And by the end of that fight, like you guys weren't there, but you can ask Ryan. I was like screaming at the TV, "Stop the fight! Stop the fight! He's
It's
dead
like Rocky.
already!"
It's like Rocky IV.
There was literally
fight.
like his face. I think he had Roundtree had a issue with his nose before the fight even started.
Sure, but it got really exaggerated.
Within 2 punches, his eyebrow was open and hanging down in front of his face.
Ugh.
And I told John, we're watching it, and I know the one picture where they shows Pereira and Roundtree. They were fighting, and I looked, and Roundtree has normal human-sized hands. And then Pereira's gloves, it looks like he's holding like a basketball as a fist. He's like basically hitting him and it's just exploding his face. And you were pointing out too, he has long reach, but he's in close. It's precision like uppercuts and body shots. I don't know, maybe doing boxing punches, but he's basically landing exactly where he wants.
Yeah.
And the guy doesn't know what to do. So within the span of, what was that, a minute and a half? It was over. Like,
yeah, and that thing over his under his eyebrow, over his eye, it looked like a vagina.
Yeah, well,
like that he was split. Yeah. Like it seriously did. It looked like it was way split open. And I don't know if you heard Daniel Cormier when he went into the ring. He talked to the referee Godard for a second.
Yeah. I heard
and like, so you might not have heard this, but he was talking to Godard, and the referee. This is when the fight just ends. The referee turns. Godard says to Daniel Cormier, he goes, "In my 20 years of doing this, I have never heard punches land that hard." And this is what he said. He goes, "It's ungodly." He goes, 20 years, I've never won this. When this guy hits, it's like buildings crumble. Yeah. And these guys fall.
And he, like Roundtree, when he throws his punches, it looks like he's trying to destroy something.
And I think he could.
He could, but Pereira's are just like, and then the guy's done. It's hard to explain. It's just like some people are just born with that power and technique, and it's just nothing.
Now, he's defended the title 3 times all this year, which is a huge amount of activity for a champion. John Bones Jones. Where the hell are you? I see. You're still dodging Aspinall. That's what you're doing. Anyway, but he says he's now good. Because you and I noticed when they were in the corner, he was coughing and blowing his nose. It turns out afterwards, he had the flu.
Yeah, he sounded like he was sick.
He had some torn tendons. And anyway, he's going to take some time off. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to see the UFC 307? It was a really, really good card, I got to say. What are your thoughts on LX? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. Let's shift gears again a little bit over to baseball. In the world of, budget-friendly baseball, you of course got to talk about the LA Dodgers, who just spent almost $1 billion on one player. Well, what was it, like $250 million?
Oh, well.
What's Shohei's contract?
700 mil.
700.
That's it.
Yes. What a deal. Deferred for a decade.
Yeah.
So 200 $2 million.
Still, $700 million. And you know what? I can't believe I've ever said this. I'm going to say this. Worth every damn penny. This guy hasn't even started pitching yet. Yep. He hasn't even started pitching yet. Worth every damn penny. But the LA Dodgers will never be accused of being cheap. They've spent a lot of money. We just did a quick search. Ryan, what did you say? $240 million is their payroll?
Yeah.
So they win the first game against one of their big rivals, the Padres. Mm-hmm. Then last night, wheels come off. They get blown out. Now, one win is still one win. Doesn't matter if you lose 1-0 or 25-0. It's one game. But still, the Dodgers get beat 10-2. You know who wasn't happy? Dodger fans. Apparently weren't happy. Because during the games, they started hurling stuff and debris onto the field. I love this shot. You can see it even said put it right up on the scoreboard. Subject to ejection if you throw objects onto the field of play. Number one, it's just ignorant because you could hurt somebody. I mean, even if you weren't intending to, when you throw shit, you never know what's going to happen, right? You could end up hurting somebody and injuring somebody.
It's just stupid. It delays the game for everybody. Yeah. It's just dumb. It's unsafe. It's stupid.
And here's the thing. And even take out the possibility you could hurt somebody. I mean, it's just ignorant. Like, you're there as a fan, as a spectator. You can cheer, you can boo, but you're there as a spectator. As soon as people start throwing shit onto fields, I mean, number one, if I'm at a game, I don't want to go to a game again. if people are going to act like fucking savages and act like idiots and just like throw shit on the field. And then the real problem too is like when everybody starts doing it, well, then everybody else wants to do it. And it just like, it was unfortunate. It was a really ugly scene. Now you might say, John, like you're a hockey fan, which I am, and people there will throw shit onto the ice. Yeah. But if you're talking about people, when there's a hat trick, like, I don't know if you know this, Ryan, but in the NHL, when somebody scores 3 goals in a game, there's a little bit of a tradition that if you're wearing a hat, you take off your hat and you throw it onto the ice. It's a hat trick. It's a tradition, you know, it's an honor sort of thing. If you live in Detroit, I still don't understand why they throw octopus on the ice.
Octopus, yeah.
I still don't get that.
So gross.
I'll never understand that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's all that kind of stuff, but I think this is a really ugly thing for baseball. I think it's an ugly thing for the Dodgers. And I don't know, what were your thoughts when you saw it?
Yeah, the whole thing, I mean, it started with trash talk to fans in the audience. The pitcher hit a player. What Jonathan was saying, Flattery hit a player, and then Machado threw a ball into the dugout or something. There was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's not so much that the Dodgers. The narrative right now going around is kind of silly. Is Dodgers fans salty about losing? They start throwing stuff. That's not what happened. Flaherty right here, he hit Tatis. Okay, you get hit by a pitch, but Tatis took it like he barely winced. It was on his leg.
Okay,
and he's like, oh, I'm a little annoyed by that. I'm going to take my base. This wasn't a hit on the hand, wasn't a hit on the head or something like critical.
Yeah.
It hit him on the leg. He barely winced. He took his base. Machado decides he's going to start acting like a thug and yelling out to Flaherty, oh, we'll see you after. We're going to take this outside. I'm like, you're a multi-millionaire douchebag. What are you talking about? You're going to take this outside.
For anybody who does not know, Jonathan Boyko is a very big LA Dodgers fan.
I am.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I am, and that's full disclosure. Fine, fair enough. Yeah. But I wouldn't tolerate one of my Dodgers acting like this. Saying,
that's true.
I wouldn't, like, against Darvish, and you're going to say I'm going to take you outside after? Like, no. You would instantly, I'd be like, dude, this player sucks. Why don't we have him on the team? So, and it didn't happen once. It happened later, too. Yeah. And then they started calling out again. I'm going to kick your ass. I'm like, Machado, dude, he barely winced when he got hit on the leg and he took his base. This was not that big of a deal. And
but then I mean, you were saying before, though, there's a lot of history here.
A lot of history. So there's a lot of heat. You know, and then Profar decides he's going to scold Will Smith, the catcher. And I'm just like, do you think they intentionally hit him? They were down 3-1 in a playoff, and they want to give him a base. You think they're gonna like hit him on purpose? No. So the whole thing seemed staged, and like they wanted to taunt everybody. They wanted to get the Dodgers fans upset. No excuse for throwing stuff on the field. I'm not for that at all. But this isn't just because they got hammered last night, and they did. Look, all credit to the Padres. They kicked the Dodgers' ass last night, but you know.
It's just one game. They're going back to San Diego now.
Yeah, that's kind of what scares me. Is that I really did not want them
this storm right now.
I didn't want them to split that series because in 2003 or this is 2002 that happened. They took the first game. The Dodgers split. Well, they split the series and then got swept in San Diego.
Let me ask you this, Jonathan, as the biggest diehard. We were just at at the end of the season. We were just at the Dodgers Padres game that I believe the Dodgers lost, but
no, they won.
Did they? Oh yeah, they did win that game we were at. So let me ask you this, though. I mean, I know we're fans. We shouldn't really concern ourselves so much with the money being spent and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is the Dodgers spent like we want to win this year. How big of a deal is it? Like, how big of a blow is it to the Dodgers if they get knocked out of here in their first round?
It's a big deal, but here's the problem. You can spend $1 billion for 2 players and then you make great trades and whatever. All that's out the door if you're going to lose your four starting pitchers. You're going to lose Glasnow, Kershaw, Stone, and River Ryan, who got to play 2 games in the bigs and then was pulled out for an arm injury. They went into this with 4 starting pitchers gone. I knew at this point, any win that the Dodgers, and the offense is amazing, the bullpen's amazing, but any win the Dodgers get in these playoffs are a gift at this point. So,
all right, guys, question is for you. What did you make of that kind of circus that broke out at the baseball game the other night? Can the Dodgers survive this? Can they turn it around? get out of the first round. I mean, they're spending money like it's winning now sort of time. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? One of the big marquee games this weekend was the Buffalo Bills versus the Houston Texans. Huge game. You got Buffalo's old receiver. You got, the Bills didn't look great against Baltimore, but they've looked great overall for the season. They've looked great. Houston looks really good, all this kind of stuff. We're not going to talk about the game as a whole. We're here to talk about, and it sounds ridiculous, we're here to talk about the last 32 seconds of the game. For those of you who did not see, Houston won the game on a last-second field goal. But that's not the story. The story is the 31 seconds that preceded that last-second field goal, setting the table. Buffalo Bills have 1st and 10 with 32 seconds left in the game on their own, I think it was 3-yard line, 2 or 3, something like that. They were pinned inside their 5. 32 seconds left in the game. Baltimore, it's a tie game, has all 3 timeouts left. Conventional wisdom might say, well, run 3 plays, keep it on the ground, force Baltimore to burn all their timeouts. I was watching Mike Greeny earlier this morning. He was talking about this. He said, no, you figure each play takes about 5 seconds. So you burn 15 seconds off that 32, then 7 to 9 seconds just on the punt play. Mm-hmm. And Baltimore would have no timeouts with about 8 seconds left. They'd have time for 1 Hail Mary. That's it. They would be out of field goal range, time for 1 Hail Mary. That's it. You take it to overtime. Inexplicably, Sean McDermott, who, by the way, I am very pro on. I think he's done a great job in Buffalo. Wonderful job. I think he's a great coach. Not top 2 or 3, but up there. I think he's a wonderful coach. He's done a wonderful job with this team. He's great. But in a scenario that a 5-year-old could figure out.
Anybody that's played Madden knows not to do that.
and by the way, I want you to keep this in mind too. A little bit of context. If your quarterback is super hot, maybe you lean on their arm a bit. Josh Allen was 9 for 30. You might want to fact check me on that, but I think Josh Allen was like 9 for 30 in the game. I'm not even sure if he threw over 100 yards in the game. I'm pretty sure he did, but 9 for 30. Your first thought, what was he?
He threw for 131 yards, 30% completion percentage.
With a 30% completion rate. That's not the time to go, hey, let's roll the dice on our quarterback's arm. When there's 32 seconds left, run the ball 3 times, go into overtime, and give ourselves a shot. Instead, they ran 3 passing plays in a row. Understand this. They weren't going to march from their 3-yard line and score a touchdown in 32 seconds, but they decided they were going to throw 3 plays in a row. Incomplete, incomplete, incomplete. Which means every time, for the uninitiated, the clock stops. Baltimore doesn't even have to call a timeout. You run the ball, timeout. Run the ball again, second timeout. Run the ball again. Baltimore blows all their timeouts. Few seconds left in the game with a punt. You're going to take it to overtime. Listen, when you go back to one of the big, most infamous coaching decisions of all time, Pete Carroll, Super Bowl with the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. They decide to throw the ball instead of handing it off to their touchdown machine. I've always looked at that. First of all, I was very happy with the outcome because the Patriots won another Super Bowl. But I always remember thinking, if that pass had been completed, right, everybody would have been calling Pete Carroll a genius. Everybody would be saying, Pete Carroll knew they would be looking for the run. Pete Carroll knew that they'd be loading up the box and looking for the run. And what a brilliant mind to throw that ball. But what happened? Got intercepted on the goal line. They lose. and all of a sudden it's the worst decision of all time. See, I can look at that. Was it the wrong decision? Yes, but I can look at that and I can see the reasoning behind Pete Carroll's decision. Again, because definitely New England's looking for that. You might be able to catch them off guard with a pass. I disagree, but I can see the reasoning. Guys, I don't understand what the thought process is in a tie football game with 32 seconds left. A quarterback is throwing a 30% completion rate where all you got to do is run the ball 3 times and take this thing to overtime. What is the upside? What is the rationale of throwing these 8, 10, 12-yard passes that wasn't going to get you any? What was the upside?
Yeah. Well, it's also super dangerous. It happened yesterday in the Rams game. Love got pressured in the end zone
and threw that
he threw
wild
a horrible
pick
six.
Yep.
Well, if you're not trying to score a touchdown, just go to overtime. I know overtime's a crapshoot too with the coin flip, but you're just basically giving them a chance. If they had no timeouts, maybe I could see maybe why you would have thrown it once, maybe, but 3 times in a row when he hasn't completed his passes, I don't get it. I really don't. Like, what are you trying to do?
And that's
and
the
he
part
hasn't
that
been playing
confused
good,
me.
like you said. He has, and nobody's stepped up. So what are you doing?
Now, again, in Sean McDermott's credit, he got up at the podium and said, "This is on me.
Yeah.
This is my fault. It's on me." That's a man's man going up there taking responsibility. It was probably the offensive coordinator making the call, but he still should have called up to the booth and said, "Run this ball, burn burn Houston's timeouts, and let's get this thing to over." Now, listen, in the long big picture, they may have gone to overtime and lost the game anyway, right? I mean, so let's not pretend like, oh, Buffalo was up by 6 and then blew it. They might have lost the game anyway, but we'll never know because with 32 seconds left, they threw the ball 3 times.
And I think this is a bigger issue. I think they rely on Allen too much.
Way too much.
I think, whenever they don't know, do something for us. Basically, he does his reads, he runs. He's super good. He's great. But I think
he's great. Yeah.
They can't establish their offense. Yesterday, the first half, they didn't do anything. They did something in the third yesterday, but I know they thought they could get rid of Diggs, and I think Diggs hit 80 yards yesterday. I don't think they thought they'd be this bad when they got rid of him and didn't really replace him.
Now let's keep things in perspective here. They're still 3-2, right? The Bills are still first place in the AFC East. They'll be fine. I mean, Josh Allen is not going to, I'll go out on a limb. Josh Allen is not going to have a 30% completion rate for the rest of the season. Okay. I'll go way out on a limb and say that again. They'll be okay. But man, I mean, last week's loss against Baltimore, again, that's a tough game. Someone's going to win. Someone's going to lose. That's fine. Houston, again, they're 4-1. Super tough team. Someone's going to win. Someone's going to lose. It was tight. It was tie. On another day, they win that game. But it's just when in a league, unlike baseball, where you got 182 games.
62.
60. Sorry, I stand corrected.
But imagine getting smacked around for 162 games of football.
Have like 2 guys left.
You last one season.
Yeah.
But I mean, every game counts. And to me, this is going to be one. If they either don't get into the playoffs, which I think they will, but if they don't secure like home field advantage by a game, I think they're going to keep looking back to this one game and really scratch their heads. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What did you think about that call? I mean, Buffalo just blew it for no reason whatsoever. How did you see it? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comments and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys, we got just a couple of minutes left here. So we're going to invite you, if you're watching us live, and you have to be watching live, and you're in the live chat, if you got a question you want to throw out, we got just a couple of minutes. Do me a favor. Start by putting it all in capitals letters, question, and then type question here. If you guys look in the live chat, I just put an example. So if you have a question, type in question all in capital letters so we know you have a question, and then we'll go from there. So Jonathan, do we got anything in there right now?
Yeah, so we've got Hosea who says, question, what fight do you want to see? Alex Pereira versus Dricus, or is it Dricus at 205, or Alex at heavyweight versus John Jones or Tom Aspinall?
Those are 2 very interesting fights. I don't think I want to see him go down in weight again, although he could probably go down there and do just fine.
He could win 3 belts if he wanted to.
He could win 3 belts if he wanted. I'll tell you what, I would love to see him go up to heavyweight, because even now at light heavyweight, he doesn't look like that's his natural body weight. He looks like he could carry another 25 pounds.
I think they said at fight night he weighed 230.
Yeah.
So he could easily go up to.
I would love
whatever.
Now here's the thing. I don't think a guy should switch weight. I know they've done it before, but I'm never for it. I don't think the guy should switch weight classes and get an instant, title fight. When it's a champion against champion thing, that's different. But I would like to see him go up to heavyweight, get like one test fight under his belt. I still think what's happening. I still think John Bones Jones fighting Stipe is ridiculous.
They're both going to retire when it's done.
But here's the thing.
Matter.
You have a heavyweight champion. Why you have not stripped his belt from him at this point is beyond me. But you have a heavyweight champion, John Bones Jones. You also have, because he's been so inactive, you have Aspinall as your interim heavyweight champion. When you have a champion and an interim champion, the whole idea is, well, now you got to unify those belts. You have to have them fight each other. Instead, and I love Stipe. I love Stipe. Stipe has not fought in 4 years.
And he lost the last few times.
And he's lost his last couple of fights. He hasn't fought in 4 years. And I think he's in his, can you double check Stipe's age? But I think he's in his 40s now.
Yeah.
Why is he the fight for John Bones Jones? John Bones Jones should be forced to fight Aspinall. But anyway, yeah, I would love to see Alex go up in weight and fight a heavyweight fight. All right, let's take just one or two quick ones.
Okay, question from Tyler McCourt. John, have you seen Face Off Inside the NHL yet? The first episode takes a look at last season, round 1 series of Toronto and Boston, and it's so good.
I mean, first of all, I don't want to relive anything. Thank you very much. As a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, I don't want to live anything. No, I haven't. So this is like basically, if I understand it right, this is like the NHL's version of Hard Knocks. If I understand it right, and I'm not really into watching those. So and by the way, I don't watch any preseason stuff. I don't watch NFL preseason. I don't watch NBA preseason. I don't watch NHL preseason. I just don't care about preseason, and nobody's really trying. So I don't want to watch it and get my hopes up or down based on anything. So I start watching when the season starts. Now, granted, technically speaking, the NHL season's already started because they did that one game overseas. That's besides the point. So no, I have not, and I probably won't. And F you very much for that painful memory. All right. Last question of the day, then we got to wrap it up.
All right. This is more of a comment, but 123 Rock fan. John, I used to be obsessed with sports in high school and college, but stopped watching around 2015. This channel might reinvigorate my passion for sports.
Thank you for, I mean, listen, when me and my friends get together, this has been true forever. We talk about movies and we talk about sports.
Yep.
And, it's funny because when I started movie podcasting and stuff like that, I modeled my movie shows after sports talk shows. And I have no problem saying I was the first one to do it. That we would really model. Some people used to call my show, whether it was at AMC with Movie Talk or when I moved on to do my own thing, they used to call it Sports Center for movie fans, or pardon the interruption for movie fans. Right. And so excited, when we really started thinking about it, it's like, I've always wanted to talk to, I've always said, if I wasn't doing Movie Talk on YouTube, I'd be working at some local ESPN radio affiliate somewhere, probably. So this has been really fun, and I'm glad you're joining me. And you know what, guys? We had a goal of 50 live viewers for our very first stream, and we had over 300.
Nice.
We picked over 300 concurrent viewers. So thank you guys so much for being here and joining us for our first show. We'll be back again tomorrow, everybody. By the way, we don't have a graphic. I forgot to tell Jonathan to make a graphic for this. If you have a topic you would like us to cover on Filthy Sports, there is an email address you can send a question to. And that is filthysportscontact, all one word, filthysportscontact@gmail.com. If you've got a topic you'd like to see us make one of our topics on the show, go ahead and email us there. We'll make sure we have a graphic ready for tomorrow so you guys can have that. So, for Jonathan Voico,
see you guys.
Ryan Myers.
Thank you, guys.
My name's John Cabia. Thanks so much for being here, guys. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. And until then, my friends, bye-bye.